Have you ever experienced a sensation of losing yourself, but not in the conventional sense? It is as if something within you is gradually fading away, yet it is neither your body nor your mind. It is something far more profound. A part of you that once felt like your true self is simply vanishing. If you are undergoing a spiritual awakening, then you might be feeling this very thing right now. What you are encountering is known as ego death. This experience can be not just perplexing, but also frightening. You may find yourself asking questions such as, "Who am I now?" Or, "What remains of me if I release all of this?" This is precisely the subject we will delve into today. Without an understanding of this aspect of awakening, it is all too easy to feel lost, broken, or even as if you are losing your sanity. However, I assure you that there is nothing wrong with you. This is all part of the journey. What you need is someone to clarify it in a way that makes sense. Let us start from the beginning. When we refer to ego death, we are not implying that your physical body dies or that your personality vanishes overnight. It is more nuanced than that. It resembles the narrative you have long believed about yourself. The identity you have spent your whole life constructing begins to disintegrate. This narrative may encompass your name, your profession, your beliefs, your accomplishments, your traumas, your future aspirations, and how others perceive you. All of that is intertwined with what we term the ego. For most individuals, the ego represents the only sense of self they have ever known. Thus, when it begins to dissolve, it feels as if your entire world is crumbling. Herein lies the confusion. No one informs you that ego death does not initially feel tranquil. Instead, it feels chaotic. You might start to question your relationships, your objectives, your self-worth, your very reality. Everything. The aspects of life that once bestowed meaning upon you may abruptly seem hollow. Perhaps you used to take pride in your career, but now you can hardly muster the energy to care. Maybe you were always seen as the strong one in your family, but now you find yourself unraveling. It is as though the ground beneath you has disappeared. And the most frustrating part is that you cannot adequately explain it to anyone. How can you convey to others that you are losing your ego without appearing insane? This is why many endure this phase in silence. They fail to recognize what is actually occurring. They believe they are experiencing depression. They feel as if they are failing at life. Or they assume something is fundamentally wrong because they no longer identify with their former selves. In truth, your former self is not broken. It is merely outgrowing itself. That version of you, which is why it must be allowed to fall away. Yet, I must be candid with you. Ego death is not something you can control. You cannot force it, nor can you resist it. Attempting to cling to your old identity will only lead to more suffering. Conversely, if you let go too rapidly, you might feel as though you have lost all sense of structure and meaning. This is the paradox. The ego craves answers. It desires labels and wants to know the direction in which you are heading and what comes next. However, awakening does not function in that manner. It does not provide you with a clear roadmap. Instead, it offers silence, emptiness, and space. For the ego, this is terrifying. It will attempt everything it can to fill that void with old habits, distractions, and even spiritual bypassing, acting as if you are healed, simply to regain a sense of safety. You might find yourself oscillating between profound spiritual revelations and utter confusion. One moment you feel liberated, as if nothing holds significance and everything is love. The next moment, you may experience anxiety, disorientation, or even despair. This is entirely normal. The ego does not die in one neat moment. It dissipates in layers. With each layer, you gain a little more clarity and surrender. Yet, in between those layers, it can feel as though you are being torn apart, living amid two disparate worlds. You may find yourself in one foot anchored in your old life, while the other is stepping into the unknown. This can be a very delicate position to occupy. Furthermore, you might observe that during ego death, you start to withdraw from others. This is not due to a lack of love, but rather because conversations feel superficial. The facades people maintain become evident, and the din of the world can become intolerable. You yearn for silence, solitude, and authenticity. Yet this isolation might also lead to deeper questions. You may wonder, why do I no longer connect with anyone? Or, why does everything seem phony now? This occurs because your soul is awakening, and once that happens, you can no longer ignore the illusions that surround you. You cannot revert to being asleep, and honestly, even if you could, you likely would not want to. Now, here is something that is seldom discussed. Ego death does not equate to becoming emotionless or detached from life. It is not about dissolving into a state of nothingness. Rather, it is about rediscovering your true self beneath the layers of conditioning. It is the realization that you were never solely defined by your thoughts, titles, roles, or past experiences. Those external identifiers were fleeting. What endures is the awareness that exists behind all of it, the stillness, the observer, the presence. This is the aspect of you that does not perish. It does not seek, could ever provide. Yet to arrive there, the ego must undergo its demise. Not because it is inherently bad. After all, the ego is not evil. It simply was never designed to lead. It was meant to serve the soul, not to govern it. The confusion arises when the ego mistakenly believes it is synonymous with the soul. Awakening is what distinguishes the two. It is not a punishment. It is a gift, though it may not always feel that way initially. Occasionally, ego death can unearth old pains, buried memories, or profound fears. These resurfaced emotions are part of the healing process. Aspects you once suppressed come to the forefront, not to torment you, but to finally be acknowledged and released. This is where compassion becomes your most potent tool. There is no room for judgment or resistance, only gentle awareness. Allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to break. This breaking is not a sign of weakness. It represents expansion. It signifies the moment your protective shell fractures, enabling light to enter. You will also discover that the things you once pursued will lose their grip on you. Approval, status, wealth, recognition, they will no longer sparkle. This does not mean they are bad, rather, they were never truly aligned with who you are. You begin to recognize how much of your life was propelled by unconscious fear. Fear of inadequacy, fear of being forgotten, fear of losing control. Once that fear dissipates, your actions will originate from an entirely different source, not from a need to prove yourself, but from a place of presence, not from fear, but from love. This is when life feels as though it flows through you instead of something you must coerce. Yet again, this transformation does not happen overnight. During the death process, it is common to feel as if nothing makes sense anymore. You might find yourself saying, "I am unsure of who I am." This realization is actually a sign that you are on the correct path. In truth, you were never meant to confine yourself to a single definition. You were meant to experience yourself, and who you are transcends words. It is something felt, something remembered, something eternal. Let me also emphasize this. If you are currently navigating the waves of ego death, you are not alone. Countless individuals are waking up. However, because we inhabit a society that venerates the ego, we seldom engage in discussions about what it means to relinquish that identity. We often perceive breakdowns as failures, when in reality, they are opportunities for spiritual growth. So, if you feel as though your life is disintegrating, I want to assure you that it is, in fact, coming together. It just may not appear that way at the moment. What is perishing is not you, but the false persona that was never truly real.
You will cease to feel the need to fix everything or to chase anything, not due to resignation, but because you have finally returned home to yourself. You will look back at your past with a sense of acceptance, without clinging to it. You will embrace the unknown without fear, understanding that ego death was not the end of your being. It marked the beginning of your authentic truth. If you find yourself in darkness now, uncertain of who you are or where you are headed, take a moment to breathe. This confusion is not an error. It is a threshold. Trust it, walk through it, and allow the old to fade away. Remember, just because it feels as if you are dying does not mean that you truly are. You are undergoing a rebirth, and what follows this death is something far more genuine than anything you have ever encountered. One day, perhaps you will reflect on this period as the most bewildering time of your life, yet also the most sacred, for it led you to that which you were always seeking beneath the clamor of the ego, your soul. Once you discover that essence, you will realize that you never truly lost anything. You have merely returned to what you have always been. Therefore, if no one has reminded you of this today, know that you are not broken. You are awakening. While ego death may be perplexing, it also stands as the most significant turning point in your existence. Continue forward. You are not alone on this journey. You are simply beginning to awaken.